Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on what is a beautiful day. We are so proud to be here at Touro Law School. I want to thank our host, Dean Harry Ballin. Let's hear it for him, and thank Touro Law School, this great institution, truly. I took a couple of classes here. We want to welcome our President and CEO of Empire State Development, Howard Zemsky. We'll be saying a few words in just a moment. Our host Assembly Member, Assemblyman Phil Ramos. New York State Senator Phil Boyle. Suffolk County legislators Monica Martinez. Bill Lindsay. And Steve Flottering. Of course, we are grateful for the leadership, and she'll be saying a few words in just a few moments, of Town of Islip Supervisor Angie Carpenter and all the members of the Town of Islip Town Board. Thank you. We want to welcome the Long Island Association President and CEO and Chair, Co-Chair of the Regional Economic Development Council, somebody who does a tremendous job for us on Long Island, across the state, Kevin Law. A great friend, the President of the Long Island Federation of Labor, John Durso. We are very proud of this institution here, professional baseball team. You might have heard of them, the Long Island Ducks. Frank Bolton, the founder and CEO. Very proud to be here, all of us here at the home of the Long Island Ducks. And of course, our great friend from the Central Islip School District, a great leader there, our Superintendent, Howard Koenig. Thank you, Howard. The Director of Vision Long Island, Eric Alexander. And to thank you to all of you who are here today, but I want to give a special shout out and thanks to all the men and women of labor who are here. Thank you for what you do each and every day for us in Suffolk County and on Long Island and across the state. So this is a great day today. We will first hear from Howard Zemsky, our Empire State Development CEO and President. And then, of course, we will hear from the great governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo. And then from our town supervisor, Angie Carpenter, who will close out the program. But it's a great day, not just because it's beautiful and sunny outside, although I do love welcoming the governor when it is sunny out and not when it is cold and snowy, when we often get together. But, you know, I was thinking about this. It says something about this governor. He is here for us in this region, in this county, in our communities, in the good days and the bad days. He understands the challenges we face, and he is there no matter what. When it's easy, but when it's hard. And today is a day of celebration. It's an exciting day for us. And I'm excited to hear about this special announcement. But this is about investing in our community. It's about investing in jobs and economic opportunity. A little later today, I will be in Brentwood talking about all of the summer jobs that young kids in the community were able to obtain thanks to the funding that Governor Cuomo brought down here. Just another example of what his leadership means to our communities. So, this is again an exciting day, and I thank all of you for being out here, all of you who are part of this community. This is an amazing community, and the governor has been here before. The governor understands it, and that's why he's here again today. And with that, I'm very proud to bring forward the President and CEO of Empire State Development, and my good friend, Howard Zemsky.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. Steve mentioned snowy and cold in his remarks. I've lived in Buffalo 37 years. We own snowy and cold, okay? There's no reason Steve has to muscle in on snowy and cold. We got that. I grew up in Long Island, actually, so it's always good to be back in Long Island. The best part of my job are the people. Working with the people, I've gotten to know so many fabulous people doing this for now over 3.5 years. And when I first took this job, honored to do it for the governor, I introduced myself to different folks and political leadership and economic development leadership, and I went to an event that Steve put on, and he was talking about the Suffolk County plan. And he was talking about transit. He was talking about, as I recall, east-west transit, making it easier for people to get to work. He was talking about revitalizing downtowns. He was talking about sewers and investing in sewer infrastructure to create mixed-use developments. And he was talking about investing in anchor institutions, a lot of the amazing life science institutions you have. And I was so impressed, having worked in Western New York and Buffalo for the governor on the Regional Economic Development Council, which Kevin does, and what he said so resonated with me. I think I just leapt out of my chair and professed my affinity for Steve and for the way he was thinking about economic development. So let's hear it for Steve below. And by the way, when I met Kevin Law, who is now 8 years into his 2-year commitment for the governor, which is no easy thing to accomplish, he had the same way of thinking about economic development, and the Regional Economic Development Council did. So I want to say, having done the job that Kevin does and Stuart, and for everyone here from the Regional Economic Development Council, let's give those folks a hand, please. I'm proud to say I was a Newsday paper boy for some years when I was 12 and 13, as I recall. Any of you former Newsday paper boys? All right. That was my first job, and I remember it so well. You know how you remember, whatever your first job was, you know how you remember getting your first paycheck? You didn't really get a paycheck as a Newsday paper boy. Well, not back then. You got a whole bunch of quarters. And I'm not kidding, I would sit on my bed every week, you'd have collect. I would sit on my bed with all those quarters and count up how much money I made in tips. I think it was on Saturday we'd get collect. And then my mother would take me to what was then Roslyn Savings Bank, and you would punch that passbook account. This was way before, online deposit. And it was just a thrill to actually make money for the first time. And I tell my kids, I have kids now, they're 31, 29, 26. I say that, being a producer, making things, making money, contributing is so much more satisfying than being a consumer. That your life will be fulfilled by producing results and things and work, not by consuming things. That's not any path to happiness. And what is so great about this job for me is I work with somebody, the governor of the great state of New York, who is such an extraordinary producer of results for Long Island and for every region of the state. And as somebody, and I know you're not thinking every day about upstate New York. I grew up here, but I've lived in a tough economy for some years. The governor has made revitalizing the economy of New York a priority across every single region of the state for the first time in a very, very long time, which I appreciate so much. But you have seen the way he has driven change here in Long Island, and I want to start again by mentioning the Regional Economic Development Councils because, it's not just an organization, it's a concept and it's a philosophy, and it's a philosophy that's different from the way we did things. It says, we're not doing it in Albany, we're not doing one size fits all, we're empowering you in the region to develop your own strategic plan, to be collaborative, to be strategic, and to get off of the sidelines and into the game of economic development. You drive the train now. That wasn't the case. And the state and the governor supports you and the legislature supports you and gives you the resources to implement your plan. So as an example, we have invested with the governor's support in tradable sectors of the economy. Those are the wealth-creating industry. We measure economic progress by private sector jobs. We have invested in companies like Nature's Bounty, Broadridge Financial, Amneal Pharmaceuticals, DealerTrack, Bactolac Pharmaceuticals, ASI Systems, Contract Pharmaceuticals, and Cygen. Leading and emerging financial services, technology, and life science companies that have added literally thousands of jobs in Long Island in recent years. We invest in downtown revitalization. Why do we invest in downtown revitalization? Because even here on Long Island for a long time, and I've lived this in Buffalo, but even true here, we lost too many young people over too many years, New York City was, taking a lot of young people from around the state, and we need to invest in downtowns. What Steve was telling me the first time I met him was so true. We need to create mixed-use developments and vibrant downtown and places people want to stay and places businesses want to recruit people to. When I talk to companies, what is the most important thing you think about or the state can do? One is workforce, two is downtown revitalization. And it's hugely important to them to recruit folks. And so we have been focused on downtown revitalization in places like projects that have supported growth in Ronkonkoma, Riverhead, Hicksville, Westbury, Yaphank, Wyandanch, and so many others. So every year when Kevin and his REDC submit projects, you always see projects that are downtown revitalization oriented. The governor invests in innovation, whether it's with Hofstra, big data and robotics, expanding STEM programs across the state, research and development projects at all your anchor institutions on Long Island, and many of them in Suffolk County, Cold Spring Harbor, Brookhaven, Feinstein, Stony Brook, centers of excellence, centers of advanced technology. We continually plant seeds for the next generation, business and economy here on Long Island. And workforce. We invest in workforce development projects, and the governor's Excelsior Scholarship Program may be the first in the country. When I talk to businesses and they say, I need to be assured in the 21st century of a skilled workforce, and we say to them, New York State gives scholarships so that you can have a free college education, that is mind-blowing to them. It is hugely important, and they know they can bank on a steady stream of highly educated and skilled workers, which makes all the difference. And when I first met Steve and Kevin, they talked about infrastructure, they talked about transit, and if you think about what the governor has accomplished here on Long Island with Bergen Point, literally hundreds of millions of dollars invested in keeping wastewater away from the bays. And if you think about the investments in Suffolk sewers, going back to the original idea and meeting about creating mixed-use development. I know sewers aren't sexy. They're not sexy. I get it. But you can't really develop things like Wyandanch Rising and other mixed-use projects. You can't create projects that are affordable to the next generation if you don't create some more density and some more vitality in the downtowns and especially in Suffolk, that requires sewers. And here you have the governor, with support, of course, from the legislature, investing hundreds of millions of dollars in sewers. And finally, I'll just mention kind of where it all started, transit. It's so important to Long Islanders. Second track, third track, the incredible investments, extraordinary, almost unimaginable investments. Think back not that many years ago in new stations, in third track, in enabling reverse commuting. Again, we need to create the infrastructure and the environment that allows young people, if they don't stay here and live here, we want them at least to be able to come back and work here. So for all these reasons, revitalization, innovation, workforce, infrastructure, you have in Long Island the best friend in Albany that you have ever had. Somebody who is not a consumer, but is the ultimate producer of results for the state, for the entire state, and for Long Island. The best friend that Central Islip and Long Island has ever had in Albany, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much. Well, it is a beautiful day, and it is a great day, and it's a good news day. First, thank you to Touro for having us and for your hospitality and courtesy. Let's give Touro a big round of applause. Howard Zemsky is the economic development guru, originally a Long Island boy, then Western New York, and he has worked tirelessly at economic development for the state. He's done it for $1 a year because he counted his quarters at a young age, and they multiplied. Howard Zemsky, let's give him a round of applause. Angie Carpenter, thank you for all your great public service for so many years, and you do it so well. Angie Carpenter. I want to thank my colleagues in the legislature who made it possible. We wouldn't have the funding for this initiative if Phil Ramos and Greg Boyle didn't support it in the Assembly and the Senate. So let's give them a round of applause. Phil Boyle. Greg Boyle is someone I went to school with. Kevin Law, who is in his 8th year of a 2-year term, and his pay has not increased all that time. Kevin Law, thank you very much for everything you do. Steve Ballone. First, I'll tell you what I don't like about Steve Ballone. Steve Ballone has been a very good county executive. I'll get to that in a moment. We do an event a few weeks back, which is an oyster and clam reseeding program, which is something I was very excited about. And we go out on a boat, and we're going to do the oyster and clam reseeding. And on the boat are a lot of TV cameras that are there to shoot this oyster and clam reseeding. And they say, go to the back of the boat, Governor and County Executive, and you will throw overboard the oysters and the clams, and the cameras will take a picture of you throwing the oysters. And I said, come on, Steve, let's go to the back of the boat, as they instructed us to do, and throw the clams and the oysters. Steve wants to stay in the middle of the boat, closer to the cameras. So he stays in the middle of the boat, closer to the cameras. I go to the back of the boat, as instructed by numerous people. And I am throwing the clams off the back of the boat. Steve is in the middle of the boat, smiling at the cameras, throwing the clams while staring at the cameras. He was not throwing them off the boat. He was throwing them onto the governor of the state of New York. I got hit with 200 oysters and clams. I smelled of clam juice for 3 days. It would just not come off me. I don't like that about Steve Ballone. I like the intent, and I like the project. What I do like about Steve Ballone is he says good days and bad, and that's true. In government, especially nowadays, you have challenges you never had before, and we've had Hurricane Sandy, we've had snowstorms, windstorms, hurricanes. Mother Nature is annoyed at a few things we've done, I think, and you really get to see the mettle of a person when times are tough. And he is a fantastic leader, and I mean that truly. He also is my type of government official, which is someone who is there to get things done and to make a difference. You know, government is not supposed to be a debating society. It's not supposed to be about the politics and a tennis game of political theory back and forth across the net. You're supposed to make things happen. You're supposed to get things done. You're supposed to make a difference in somebody's life. That's why you are in government. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. And we argue these theories in politics back and forth. No, do the hard work to get things done. And that's what Steve is about. You have to believe sewers are sexy to do these jobs, because that's what it's like to get something done. And that is Steve Ballone. Let's give him a round of applause. Also, on the point when Howard said they know snow in Western New York, just so you feel a little better the next time you have a storm and they say 6, 7, maybe even a foot of snow on Long Island, and everybody goes, oh God, a foot of snow, what are we gonna do? Western New York, we had a storm, 7 feet of snow. 7 feet of snow is a whole different kind of situation, let me tell you. And that is the snowstorm we had in Buffalo. 7 feet of snow broke all records. So Howard does know snow. Not that he was anywhere to be found during the 7 feet of snow. I called him, I said, you have to come out and help with the snowstorm. He said, not in my job description. You know, we all do what we do. And let's give John Dorso, who is a great labor leader for all of Long Island, a round of applause. The subject today is economic development, but economic development really is what allows us to do everything else, right? Economic development is driving the economy, creating jobs, creating opportunity for people, creating a reason for people to stay, for people to come, creating a tax base, because if people are working, they're paying taxes, it gives the town, the county revenues to work. So it really is the foremost responsibility to get the economy running. And for many years, that wasn't just about Long Island. The state was making a lot of decisions that were wrong-headed, frankly, that were paralyzing Long Island and other parts of the state from actually making progress. Because as goes the state, goes the regions within the state. You can't really buck the state's economic current. And the state was making a lot of mistakes. We kept raising taxes, and you saw an exodus of young people, and you saw an exodus of businesses. And we just had the wrong perception. We had this, what I call a hangover arrogance. Well, we're New York, nobody will leave, they'll all stay. Well, you know, that's true to an extent, but if you push people hard enough, they will leave. You keep raising taxes, housing gets more affordable, less affordable, the housing property taxes go up, people will leave. And if you look at a map, there are other shapes to the west of New York State and to the south. Those are called other states. They are habitable. You push people hard enough, and they will leave. And they did leave, and they're more mobile than ever before. We had to change that orientation. We had to get taxes under control. And we did it on the state level. We brought state spending down to the lowest increases in recorded history from Democratic or Republican administrations. That allowed us to cut taxes all across the board. Middle class up to $300,000 now pays the lowest tax rate since 1947. Just think of that. Lowest tax rate since 1947. Lowest corporate rate since 1968. Lowest manufacturing rate since 1917. So it was a very powerful signal to business that this is a different day. Second, we had to do something about property taxes. Property taxes are the killer tax in the state of New York. It's not the state income tax, it's the property tax. In Suffolk, the property tax is 5 times what the state income tax is. 5 times. And property taxes were going up 6, 7, 8% every year. And it was a sensitive subject, but you can't keep raising property taxes at those rates because you're forcing people out of their homes. And you're making housing less affordable. Jim Morgo, who worked on affordable housing. When you have those property taxes going up that way, they're higher than the interest rate on the mortgage. And young people who are looking to stay, it's just not economically possible. So you had to get property taxes under control. And we did with the property tax cap of 2%. A locality can override it, but it imposed a discipline on the governmental process that has worked. And 98% of the governments in the state have lived within the cap, and we've gotten property taxes under control. Businesses get it, homeowners get it. We've saved billions of dollars for people. So we got taxes under control. The second step was understanding that government's role now when it comes to economic development is not just not to be a negative. You have to be a positive. This is a national and international competition to get businesses. I can't tell you, every day a business calls and says, well, you know, I was approached by North Carolina, and they said if I move there, they will do this. Or a business will call Howard and say, look, I have 500 jobs, I have a plant, I can move it anywhere in the country. What offer do you make me? Because California offered me this. So you're constantly bidding against other states to get these large businesses to come here. And you have to be in the game. I call it entrepreneurial government. You have to be an entrepreneur in government, working with other entrepreneurs and businesses to bring them here. And your vision on Long Island was we can be the next generation research triangle. We have Brookhaven, we have Cold Spring, we have Hofstra, we have Northwell, we have Feinstein. We can be the next research triangle. And we invested in that research triangle, and it's bringing dividends already. So, entrepreneurial government, we did that. And then finally, you have to have a transportation network that makes it work. And that's where Long Island was in trouble. What made Long Island was the Long Island Railroad. That's what made Long Island. And back in the day, Grand Central Parkway, Northern State, Long Island Railroad, Southern State. You could drive in, or you could get on the Long Island Railroad, and people bought homes saying, I'm 16 minutes from New York City. I'm 27 minutes on the Long Island Railroad. Yeah, that doesn't work anymore. Long Island Expressway is no longer viable as a commuting route on a daily basis. I believe if you commute on the LIE for a sustained period of time, it will reduce your average length of life. I believe it. The roads just can't handle the volume. It was a different world. The Long Island Railroad was built in 1834. And it just was not designed for the capacity that we now have. So we had to expand and improve the Long Island Railroad. Obviously, we talked about it for literally 70 years. They talked about expanding the Long Island Railroad. It never happened. Why? Well, because you're on Long Island. And Long Island is the home of NIMBY, and the answer is always no. And to try to build something new, well, why would you ever do that? It's a fool's errand. Yes, but we have to actually modernize the Long Island Railroad. What does that mean? That means we have to add tracks. Someplace on the Long Island Railroad, there's one track. You know when you hear that report in the morning that says there's a delay on the track? They mean that literally. It is a track. God forbid a squirrel walks onto the track, has a heart attack. Everything stops. They have to bring out the police. They have to do an autopsy on the squirrel. Was it natural? Did somebody kill the squirrel? Yellow tape. You can't move the squirrel until we do the investigation. Everybody is 3 hours late for work because of the dead squirrel. You need redundancy. You need a second track and you need a third track. Oh, but then we have to go to all those towns. And we have to get the approval and all those town councils and all those town boards. Yes, that's what we had to do. And we have to modernize the stations and build more tracks, and you need new equipment. Yes, that's what we had to do. And it's expensive. Yes, that's what we had to do. And we took on the challenge, and Steve Ballone and Laura Curran and Kevin Law and Dave Capel said, we're going to take on this thing called NIMBY. Because, by the way, if NIMBY rules the land, paralysis sets in. You can't have the mindset that says, we're not making any development, we're not doing any improvements. Because then the rest of the world will pass you by. Because everybody else is. It's a chronic problem in this nation. We're not rebuilding our transportation network, not rebuilding our infrastructure. You're flying to airports all across the world. They're beautiful, they're magnificent. Then you come back home and you land in LaGuardia, right? We haven't built a new airport in this nation in 25 years. Denver was the last airport. LaGuardia Airport, which we're rebuilding right now, is going to be the first new airport in 25 years. But the Long Island Railroad was a metaphor for that same mentality. Well, it's too big, it's too complicated, they're going to sue, the groups are going to get together, and they're going to be against us. We took that on, $6.6 billion. We are now redoing the whole Long Island Railroad because that is going to be the future of Long Island, and we are doing it. So we did all those things on the macro level, and then Howard's point, which is exactly right, yes, you do those big things that make the state an asset to bringing back jobs, lowered the taxes, investing, new transportation, but then you also have to do it bottom up. And the way the economy works is it's town by town, and you have to have a future vision, but it's implemented on the micro, and it's community by community. Transit-oriented development is the exact right strategy. This is no longer the vision that generations had 30 years ago. I want to move out. I want to get a house with a patio and a two-car garage. These millennials, they want to be in a downtown area. They don't want to sit in a car. They want to be able to walk to a restaurant. They want to be able to walk to the train. They want to be able to walk to the cafe. That's how they're oriented. Totally different than the vision that generations before had. They want that multifamily housing. They want to be in a dense urban downtown core, and they want the walkable communities. It's a whole different orientation for us. And Suffolk County, frankly, has been ahead of the curve on making that shift. And we came up with a program called the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, DRI, because everything has to be an acronym in government. God forbid they use words. So the DRIs, which said we're going to have competitions for the best downtown revitalization plan, and the best plan will win $10 million to make their dream a reality. Then something happened. I think it was a mistake on Howard's part, but he gets very defensive, so I don't want to say that. We anticipated that we were going to have 10 winners for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. And Phil only allocated $100 million. So $10 million each, 10 winners, that's $100 million. we thought we would get 10 winners, maybe we'd get 20 applications. Maybe we'd get 30 applications. So 1 out of every 2 would win, 1 out of every 3. We got over 105 applications. So, which I believe Howard should have anticipated, but, so now we had a problem. So Howard's thinking is we'll make a change and we'll have first place winners that get $10 million. Second place winners that get $8 million. Third place winners that get $6 million. Fourth place winners that get $4 million, and fifth place winner that gets dinner with Howard Zemsky. So you really don't want to be, in fifth place. Now, everybody wants to be first place. I understand that. That's our psyche. You know, I have to win, I have to be first, I have to be first. But second place means you're in the top 20%. Third place means you're in the top 30% of the 100. That is great. And $4 million, $6 million is a lot of money. So we have to recalculate our expectations because everybody wanted to be a first place winner, but you only have 10 out of 105, right? And second place is very respectable, and third place is very respectable. So I just want to give you the context of the overall situation. And many communities have done applications for more years than you did applications. And they have lost for more years. And every time a community loses, the plan gets a little bit better because they lost and we went through what was. So a lot of other communities had more experience than you did in doing plans, right? So you understand what I'm trying to do in setting the expectations? Okay, with that news, it's my pleasure to announce that you won first place, $10 million. Congratulations.
Please welcome Town of Islip Supervisor Angie Carpenter.
Well, this is really cool because for the first time ever, when I woke up to a podium, since I'm a little height challenged, there's a little step stool here. So thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. It truly is a wonderful, wonderful day for the community of Central Islip, for the town of Islip, and I believe for Long Island. Now, before I begin, I do have a little bone to pick with Howard. I'm a little jealous, Howard, that you got to be a Newsday paper